Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the iACast. All right, with me today, I have Taylor Arndt. Hi, Taylor.
Hi, Michael.
We have Lauren Bradford. Hi, Lauren. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. And back with us after convention, after we all have recuperated and relaxed, we have Jeff Bishop. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing well. Did you get COVID at convention?
I got something. Taylor got
Yeah.
something.
I got something, yeah.
But you didn't,
All right.
right?
I don't know. I was pretty tired at the week when I got back. So it's possible I got something, but I didn't have that big of a problem. I mean, I wasn't real sick. So I'm not sure. I never tested.
Yeah, I didn't either,
Yeah.
even though, I mean, we were sick. Taylor gave me whatever. She pressed the share button and decided to share it with me. I'm still sniffling and coughing and all that, but I think I'm over whatever I had, and very glad of that. It's good to be back to normal operations. And we've got a very packed show for you guys today. And we have our group with us today, and we've got some announcements we want to discuss. But to start us off, we said we'd have a final show to wrap up convention, and we never got to it because we got so tired. And so, so Jeff, last couple of days of convention after we had that last podcast while we were there, what were your thoughts, wrapping that up?
I mean, I thought the convention itself was tremendous. I think that the big thing that I got out of was seeing people. There was definitely opportunity to meet with certain vendors and go in the exhibit hall and talk with people and things like that. But really, the joy that I really like about going to conventions is, sitting down and talking with people, seeing people in the hallways, going into hospitality rooms and having conversations and doing all of those things. Plus, conducting the business of the organization is important. And hearing, from the National Library Service and other people, really, really fun. I had an opportunity to speak to a number of vendors, and I think the conversations were very fruitful. So I was very excited about that. Saw a lot of really fun tech, and I was kind of happy about, things sort of winding down later in the week, a little more relaxed, could spend more time with people, that kind of thing. So I enjoyed it.
I did too. I felt like we were always running from place to place. Like, it was a vacation, but it was always like, I feel like there's not enough time, even at ACB, to meet with all the people you want to meet with and just share those experiences and things like that. Taylor.
Yeah, I missed a bunch of people too.
Yeah.
That I wanted to see, but I never found them. So
Yeah.
that's it's unfortunate we can't put something on our phones that says, "Hey, I'm looking for this person, and where are they?"
Right.
That you could more widely adapt.
Kind of tap into the Find My kind of network without having to add people to Find My.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that. That would be interesting.
Apple, I think, has that U chip pretty tied down. I think that's the chip, the U chip, U1, U2, whatever it is. So, Taylor, what were your final thoughts of convention?
Convention was really, really cool. It was actually the best convention that I've been to. I felt like this time more than ever, I was able to sit down, talk to people, and I wasn't worried about how many things that I was going to miss or, having to be in session at 9 a.m. That wasn't really something I had to worry about. I mean, yes, I wanted to go to session, but it wasn't something that, if I missed the first 10 minutes, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. So I think that it was the best convention, and it was also fun meeting all the people that I talked to on Zoom for various years, and I actually got to meet them in person. Now, like Jeff and Michael, there were a lot of people that I was not able to see because I couldn't find them, which was very unfortunate.
Yeah, and it was great getting to meet everybody in hospitality rooms, and it's going to be very exciting next year. It'll be in Dallas. Lauren, are you looking forward to that, since that's more your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'll finally get to meet people, and I've never been to a convention, so this will be really cool to be in my hometown.
Yeah. So our state convention is in Houston next month, so we're very excited to go to that. We just went to a social for ACB. This isn't an ACB podcast, I promise. But, we got to see tech and do those kind of things. And so it's kind of exciting to go see everybody next month and try to build membership. That's what we're very much trying to promote. So one thing I want to mention, I was just on Sunday Edition talking about the Meta glasses, but Taylor, did you use your Meta glasses much at convention?
I use them extensively because, I didn't know this hotel very well. So it helped me find different rooms. It helped me be able to understand where I'm at. It described the layout of the rooms to try to figure out what was around. I was able to read different things. So, yes, I used it very extensively.
Fantastic. So, Jeff, did you use your glasses much at convention? Did you use them at all?
I did a little bit, but not as much as I thought I was going to, mainly just because I was so busy and I was trying to get from place to place. And, so I wish I had used it more, to be honest with you. But so no, I used it a little bit. And when I did, though, it worked almost flawlessly when I was, especially reading signs, trying to find specific rooms. I mean, you could definitely do something like put your hand up and try to find the Braille signage, but it was actually quicker to use the Meta glasses to be able to read, room numbers. So I like that.
Let me ask you this. Do you feel like there's still a use case? Well, both of y'all, since y'all both have the glasses, because I feel like this. Do you feel like there's a use case still for Envision glasses or Orcam to spend that much money on something when you could really get a lot of the same use case out of the glasses?
I think it depends on your use case. For example, there's not as much auto reading of a full page that you can do with the Meta glasses, at least not easily. Some people are getting it to work and with the right kind of prompting and things, but I have not been able to do that as well myself yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the use case. But if you're just wanting it to read signs and do those types of things, I mean, I think the price point is so low that as many people as possible should get them. Personally,
I mean, with the exception of people, that are getting their technology bought through rehabilitation and those kind of things, do you feel like if you're buying this stuff on your own, do you think it's worth paying for $6,000 when we can do some of this stuff? Like, would you shell out the money to do that if you had to now? What are your thoughts, Taylor? Would you shell out the money for that?
No. Why? I mean, I don't see a need because there's so much technology out there. I don't want a technology that I buy $3,000 later and then 2 years from now the hardware's out of date.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do I need all this quote unquote specialized tech for the blind when I can do it mainstream, right? I understand that there's some limitations there. However, it's in its infancy, and I think as it continues to grow, I think the need for the other technology will decrease over time.
I really like the idea of off-the-shelf products. If I'm going to buy something, I want it to be more mainstream. And I think the ability that the Meta glasses have, it's awesome that it is an off-the-shelf product, and I don't have to spend near the amount of money that I would with Envision.
Right.
So.
And Jeff, what are your thoughts? Do you feel like I guess I need to figure out what my question is again. Do you feel like you would shell out that kind of money if the state rehab was not going to pay for it? Would that be something do you think people should do, or what are your thoughts?
I personally would not if it was up to me. But again, I think you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis as to what someone needs.
Each person's different, yeah.
So I think you have to really evaluate it and pick the right choice for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really, I think there's value in things like Orcam and others, but I think it's very personal. So you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
I could tell you for me that even if I lost my vision, I think I would be able to get by with the glasses and an iPhone, but also I have the technical ability to use those devices that way. And I think a lot of times it has to do with do you have the technical ability to use your phone and do the things that you would do with Orcam and the glasses without all of the conveniences of having it all in one device?
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that angle, but yes, that is a definitely key factor. I mean, I think that if you are very technical, probably you could just get with some Ray-Bans, get, away with those. But if you are not technical, I think that's where Envision and Orcam probably will come more into play.
Right. And so I think that a lot of people are using these at conventions, and I think they're here to stay. I don't think they're going anywhere. Do you all think that, well, apparently there's going to be an update later this week this week using those or for the AI on those glasses. So it'll be very interesting to see what we get.
Yeah, very exciting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to move us on to the next thing that I want to discuss. And I want us all as a community to really... This is a hard topic to talk about because there's so many ups and downs here. But just to start us off, and that is, we knew that there were some issues going on with AppleViz based on the post earlier this month that David's health was not great with AppleViz, and he did get better, which is a very good thing. We're very glad to hear David is doing much better. But they announced yesterday that AppleViz will be shutting down at the end of August, and the website is now in read-only mode. And I wanted to spend some time to talk about that and get, y'all's thoughts on this. And Jeff, I want to start with you. What went through your mind when you read all this and heard about it, online?
Well, I first want to start by commending the owner, David Goodwin, and all of the editorial team, Thomas Donville and Scott and David and others who have put in tremendous amounts of effort over the last 14 years. And I mean, it's become an invaluable resource. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I don't know that we would have as much accessibility as we do today on the iOS platform if it were not for AppleViz. So I think that they need to be highly commended for the work that they've done and the amount of resources that have been put up there from a podcast perspective. AppleViz guides, forums have been a really lively and sometimes not so nice place, as David pointed out in his post. But it's allowed the community to engage and to have conversation. And then finally, the directory of applications. We often only found out about new applications because AppleViz announced them. If you were following them on, Mastodon, Twitter, or X, right? So it's going to be something that's severely missed. A number of us have reached out to them to see if we might be able to assist them with maybe, taking over the site or doing something with it. And I think those efforts are ongoing to see what we can do. I will just say this, and David has every right to do, since he owns it, to do whatever he wishes to do. And I'm not going to sit here and make any judgment as far as what his ultimate determination is. And that's perfectly fine. I will say, though, that, and I mean this in a very positive light, that if it's possible to preserve things like the directory and the guides, and maybe even the podcasts themselves, and archive them somewhere for posterity's sake, and definitely, give credit to where credit is most deservedly, should be given for AppleViz, then I think that if at all possible, we should try. Again, this is a pretty big site, so there's lots and lots of content. But I would hope that for the community's sake, that we could preserve that in some way. And it doesn't have to be any of us that are here. I just hope someone might be willing to do it, because I would hate for all of that knowledge, to go to waste. There was lots and lots of training on Mac, lots of training on iOS, lots of historical knowledge there going back on different iOS releases, which can be brought forward to the current releases. The directory in and of itself is invaluable. Being able to read reviews, find out comments from people, having access to that information would be just amazing if it could be preserved in some way. However, I just want to say that I would respect it in whatever way, shape, or form this ends. The tremendous collaboration that they did with the community, and the tremendous team effort that they did to run the site, especially David, running it 7 days a week, 365 days a year, takes a lot of effort, and he should be highly commended for that. It's a very, very valiant effort for 14 years. It's a really long time. And the rest of the team, big kudos to them. They worked really, really hard behind the scenes, and they need to be most assuredly commended as well for all of their efforts. So I think I've said what I needed to say on the topic.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Jeff said. We've had very similar goals with what we've done with iAccessibility and the iACast over these many years, and iAccessibility started out as a blog around the same time that AppleViz started, and we were the iAccessibility report it was iAccessibility.wordpress.com. I mean, that when we started the blog, and we talked about, I was reviewing different apps for accessibility, what I could do with each one, things like that. And I think that there was a huge need for that. And I got out of reviewing apps because AppleViz was doing such a great job with reviewing, or with their app directory and things like that. And I feel very passionately that there needs to always be a resource where people can go to find out about app accessibility. There's a program I use on the Mac called Crossover. And what it lets you do is it lets you search for an app and see how well you could play that game on your Mac with Crossover. And so I can look up any game, and it gives a star rating and explains how well the game will run on the Mac, which is it reminds me a lot of the AppleViz app directory. And we're working on the iAccessibility website to replicate a very similar structure, because I feel like that kind of a resource needs to be kept alive. And, whether we've also reached out to AppleViz to see if we can use that data to populate this, and because I feel like that would be a great resource. But the one thing we want everybody to know is we respect AppleViz in whatever direction they take with this. So, that is very important to us. But it's also very important that we have a resource for people to use to get information about apps, to learn how to use their devices, and to talk about what is important in learning about bugs that are in each version of iOS and macOS. And even Vision OS. I would like to add that to this as well, as that's going to be coming, be more of a operating system for folks in the future. And we're working on building a system at iAccessibility.net to have that information, so that if this resource does not stay around, that we can still have a great area for people to meet and to discuss these topics. And I do feel like as a creator of content and somebody that does a podcast, we need these resources. And I would expect, and this is my opinion, that we, data retention is so important, because like Jeff said, between operating system releases, there are bugs that exist. And I didn't even think about, does it matter if we have information about iOS 13? Well, sure. Because what if there's still bugs in 18 that were found in 13? Didn't even think about that. So, and I want there to always be a place where you could go and search for what's some cool apps that are accessible that can be used for, I don't know, reading books or ordering food. I feel like that's an invaluable resource. Like, that's so important. Lauren, what are your thoughts on all of this that you're hearing? Like, as a user of Apple products, how does this impact you? Did you use AppleViz and things like that?
Yeah, so when I got my first iPhone, I remember vividly searching for what are apps that I can use as a visually impaired person? What can I do with my iPhone? What resources are available to me. And I remember looking up, I think my mom actually sent AppleViz to me, and she was like, hey, look at this cool app directory. It has so much on it. And I remember going through it, and it was a huge resource to me, and I kept following them through the years. I want to say I got my first iPhone back in 2013 or 14. And so now to hear that they're closed, it's sad. And it's a little, it's I don't want to see them go. I want to make sure that there is a resource for people to go to. And I also want to echo what everyone else has said, just commending the team for their work and everything, and their hard work and dedication. It was a really beneficial resource for me, and I want to make sure that that continues to be a resource for other people. So that's my take on it.
And Taylor, you have also a different viewpoint here because you have content that was used in blog posts or some kind of post on AppleViz that you've posted in the past. Is that right?
Yeah, so I have some forum posts and things that I've participated in. I also have some blog posts somewhere. I was trying to find them, and of course I can't find them now. But the thing is, I kind of want to, like I said, commend the team. Everybody else has been doing that. But I also really, really, I don't want to dwell on the past. Of course, it really, really stinks that they're closing. Really, really does. And I really love what the team has been doing at AppleViz. They've been working super, super hard. However, with that being said, I really think now it's time to reimagine what a resource like this could be, right? Because AppleViz has been around so long now. And so what other things can either we or somebody in the community do to make this a very valuable resource and maybe add things that weren't there before, or I don't know, maybe use AI to enhance it. I don't know. I'm just thinking about stuff as it's coming to me. And I think that that's something to think about is we've already thinking about the past, right? Oh my, AppleViz is going away. It really stinks. Of course, I hope that everybody is, getting better, of course, with David's health. Of course, he is now. But I really, really think that it's time now that we start thinking about the future and try to look with this situation, through a positive lens rather than a, negative lens and think, oh no, it's going to go away. But okay, it may go away. But how can we make sure we can preserve it? Or how can we work with others to make sure we can preserve it and, even make it more, effective? So that's kind of my thing, my take on this. And it is really sad to see because I've started using AppleViz ever since I got my first iPhone. But, unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. I think that's just kind of inevitable.
So, Taylor, you brought up something very interesting that I wanted to comment on. And that is, yes, I mean, AppleViz had a way of doing things. And I think, they had a great website, they had great resources. And I don't want to degrade that or belittle that or say that they didn't do enough. But I feel like one of the things that as time goes on and as things change, even, our sites and our podcasts and all those things need to change too, right? I feel like, we, even iAccessibility and everything we've done has kind of been kind of cookie cutter. Like we've just been doing what everybody else does.
Yeah.
And I think we need to look at how to change that, how to bring more community involvement.
It's time that we innovate.
Mm-hmm, and that is providing more interactive content. We have our forums and we have some new forums that we've added. We're doing a lot more content. We have Mastodon, Twitter, or X, and all the places. We're doing what everybody else does. But I feel like it's like, okay, are we checking all the boxes and getting, things done a certain way? Well, we want to hear from all of you. How can we make this more interactive? How do we make this resource yours? And how do we have ownership by the community and not just the iAccessibility team? So we want to know your feedback, but I think one of the things that we're going to look at doing is being more interactive, being more out there and making the website have more interactive elements. And that might even mean sharing videos to the website. That might mean a lot more user-generated content. And I've always said we are about user-generated content, but we do need, we would like to be that resource that people rely on. And we're going to be that, but we're also going to be more.
Yeah. And that key word is more.
And this is something we've talked about for a while in the team, is how do we grow the site? But I feel like with the loss of a resource out there, we need to be a resource for people. And what I don't want to do, nothing can replace AppleViz. I want everybody to know that we don't feel like, we're replacing AppleViz. But we want to be as our own thing. We want to be a place where people can come to talk and be a community and share their resources. And an example of that, I was on Sunday Edition today for ACB, and somebody came on and said, we use this term with the meta glasses, and we say, look and describe this in descriptive detail and tell me what the text says. And just little tips like that, like things you may not like, the word, using certain words or doing certain things can only be found through talking to people and hearing from people. And that's what I want us to really promote, is not just being a bunch of talking heads like that. You listen to the podcast, you hear us, right? And that's great. But we want to hear from you. What are things that you're doing with your technology to make it work the way you want? And we want to see more of that. So we're going to be promoting that more. We are going to have an app directory. We're going to have guides. We're going to have all those things. But we're going to automate that a bit more. We're going to change, put our own spin on it, in other words. But I think we're going to really focus on our community, because you guys have the best resources. I mean, there are a few people that run a website. There are millions of people that are blind or use this technology out there. So I want us to really reflect and think about where we're going. Where we've been is important, but where we're going is so much more important.
Totally agree with that, Michael.
Jeff, do you have any thoughts on, what you would like to see in the future, or do you think we're on the right track, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think the big crucial thing that I would strongly encourage, look, there's going to be a lot of people who are looking into how do we replace AppleViz in some way, shape, or form, right? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people looking at how they can innovate in this space. So there's going to probably be a few of these out there. Whichever one stands up at the top needs to be structured in such a way where, it is more sustainable over time, and is not. And by the way, this in no way, shape, or form detracts from the work that David did, because my goodness, he's a hero, in the community. So amazing. But, with this valuable of a resource, if it were to be restructured and rebuilt, this is something that I think belongs in some sort of a more business structure of some kind, whether it be a nonprofit or a commercial entity or something where it can put resources behind it, which, by the way, doesn't mean that it would ever not go away either, because commercial companies do things too. I mean, look at Google. I mean, they kill products all the time, right? So that's not a guarantee. I guess, my only advice is whoever's going to pick up the chips here and run with this, make sure you're doing it in a team approach, so that you don't have one person who can get burnt out, because that's not helpful for everyone. And it's we want people to enjoy their families. We want people to be able to enjoy life as much as possible, and living on that edge of always worrying about something going wrong and having to be accountable to it, just like David was, which, my goodness, for 14, I mean, that's a long time to have dedicated his life to. That is just, I mean, I can't say enough about that. So just amazing and valiant efforts from him. to do that. And I think that we can always look back at what lessons can be learned through this process of, the whole venture of AppleViz, and what could someone in the future do to mitigate maybe this in the future. And there's no guarantees of any kind, right? Like, technology will change. We don't know what the web's even going to look like in 20 years. So, or even iOS for that matter. So who knows where the world will end up here. But if, you come with a team approach, and which doesn't mean that you have too many fingers in the pie, because that might get messy, but at least enough where the burden is not living on one person's shoulders, I think is important. So, and again, not to detract at all from the work that David and the team did at AppleViz. Truly, truly commendable.
Right. And I think one big important thing is that everything needs to be a learning experience. I think what happens sometimes is we get so attached to what is working and what is not working. And that's all of us, right? We get very defensive and very, well, I did this and this was right. And even with my own websites, I'm like, well, I did the best I could. And I think we all get there. But I think when we really look at things and we say, how do we make this better for everyone? How do we bring the community together to build something that is important to us all? That's where we really are going to see, change. And I think it's important to have this focus, where people can go and say, what is accessible, what is not? Who knows what is accessible, what's not? Where can you find people? And I think that's just as important as documented information is. Where's a place where you could go to find people that can help out in a situation? And I think, like you said, whoever builds this is going to really need to figure out how to make this work well. And we're going to take a crack at it. We may not work. Somebody else might.
Yeah.
But
I think there's one other piece. I think there's one other piece here that we have not talked about, and this actually is probably even more important than what we talked about, which is, what is each member of the community's responsibility in maintaining a site that is wanting to be utilized and treated fairly, and everyone being respected. And David published a blog post about this, and one of the reasons why he was stepping away, it was enough just the technical infrastructure piece, but part of it was a lot of the tension that was created on the website, a lot of, inappropriate posts, or just things that were very difficult, and that can tear you down over time. Mm-hmm. And so I think all of us, it behooves us to think about that, think about what he communicated, and think about how we present ourselves in forums, in the way that we're communicating. Language is important. It doesn't mean that we can't advocate strongly for a position, but we need to make sure that we are doing it with the best of intentions, and not making it, a personal situation whatsoever, because that creates harm, and that's not fair. So I think, and I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone, because honestly, I don't know who, or what happened or whatever. But all I'm saying is, obviously that was a concern that he publicly put out there. Mm-hmm. And so we should all take a bit of a note and pause and say, wow, when I'm posting on these forums, when I'm doing these types of things, I need to make sure that I'm putting my best foot forward. And I think, lead with kindness, lead with respect. Right. And I think 99% of the people do. And mm-hmm. It's that 1% that's difficult. Right. So we should all just be thinking of that, and at least be aware of it, and, hope that the next venture, whatever comes forward next, will have that mindset. And I think that the owner, to whoever is going to drive the next site, it would be helpful to hear from them about what the culture would be expected to be. I know David was a little more shy about coming on podcasts and things, which is fine. there's ways to do that either in written form or whatever form that takes. But I think that's important, right? To talk about not just the technical, not just those types of things, but the culture and the lived experience that you're wanting to represent as part of the experience that you're wanting to achieve on the site. And I think those are things that everybody should be thinking about.
Right.
Very well said.
Yes, agreed. And I think that, moving forward, we just need to figure out, what all of our culture is as a community. How do we approach people? How do we feel about being approached? And how do we, as a community of people that are blind and low vision, how do we interact with people? And I feel like, and I feel like there is people are positive and negative based on things. We all have things that we want to see, and websites have reasons for doing things the way they do it. Communities have reasons for doing things the way they do it. But I think that transparency is very important. Being transparent with people on how things should run is very important. And I want to see, more of that in what we do for our businesses and iAccessibility and things like that, and elsewhere, because I think that would be more beneficial for those kind of things. But I think that's really where we stand as iAccessibility. We're going to try to provide this resource, whether it works or not is, to be determined. We're making a lot of steps on the website to do that. But again, we respect anybody that wants to provide that resource as well. And we will work with anybody to, we'll be on podcasts. We'll do, we want to have people on. We'll continue being who we are and have been, over the years. We'll continue the iACast. We're going to try to improve some things and build a great community. But, if somebody else comes up and does this, then that's great too. Even if there's multiple resources out there, that's great. We need places for people to go. We need communities. We need ways for people to interact. So sometimes a one-size-fits-all thing is not always the best. So let's go forth and build some great resources, everybody. I think that would be wonderful. Again, nobody is going to replace AppleViz. David did an amazing job. But all we could do is try to be the beacons in the dark and provide information where it may not be after next month. I feel like, that's kind of the key here, is making sure that after the dark ages happen, I say that jokingly, because we will go through a period where we do not have resources if none of this data is kept. We just need to be supportive to each other in the blindness community and say, here's where we could find these resources. Here's how you can learn how to use these things. And we just need to work together and help each other. That's my thoughts. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we wrap up on this topic?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm really looking forward to the future. I'm really looking forward to coming together as a community, interacting with you guys, just being able to share information. Whatever happens, I just hope that we do it together and that we're respectful and that we have a good time with it. And I'm just excited to see what we can do next. That's my take.
Does anybody else have any final thoughts?
Like I said, sorry, Michael. I really think that we have to start going forward rather than back, because if we keep dwelling on the past, we're going to get nowhere. I mean, yeah, like I said, we got to keep acknowledging what everybody else has done, but at some point, we just got to start putting in the work, getting the resources, and building AppleViz back up to where it was at. I mean, it doesn't matter who does it. Somebody's got to do it.
We need to build a resource, yeah.
Yeah, you can't replace AppleViz. And so I think that's the thing that you have to realize. You can't replace AppleViz, but what you can do is make something that is different than AppleViz, but yet still fulfills the same purpose.
Yes. And like I said, if it's us, if it's iAccessibility, that's great. If it's somebody else, we will support them completely. But is there any devices since convention? We got the Zoom H4 Essentials based on seeing Jeff's. See, Jeff got us to spend money. And they are really cool. They are really neat devices, and I cannot wait to do some unboxings on them. Taylor, what do you think of yours so far?
I really like it. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it. And I mean, it's just been really fun. I got the memory, card in it. So I just got to figure out how to use it. But it seems really cool.
And Jeff, have you used yours for much since after convention or during convention?
Not yet, but I plan on doing that. So absolutely.
Yeah, and I've heard they might be really good for doing unboxings, like using those for microphones for unboxings.
Yep.
So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to try this out. It seems like a really neat device, and there's so many settings. And I want to commend Jonathan Mosen for doing such a great demonstration of how to use the H4 Essential. And I will probably have to listen to it 2 or 3 times before I understand exactly how to do everything, because there's a lot to it.
It's complicated, right? It's got a lot of settings.
It does, but it's worth it. It's worth the money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although I am mad that I didn't get it on Prime Day when they were $50 off.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I try not to think about that.
So that's basically where we are. So do you guys have any thoughts before we wrap up today?
We'll be back later in the month.
Yes,
in August, probably, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, next week is August. So, this coming week is August. So we'll definitely be back in August.
There you go.
All right. Lauren, how can people find you online?
You can find me in all of the places. I'm Lauren Bradford on Instagram. I don't know what my handle is. Gosh, Lauren Bradford on Facebook. Lauren Bradford on Mastodon. I don't know. I'm all over the place. Just look up my name. You'll find me. And I look forward to interacting with you guys.
Yep. Jeff, how can people find you online?
Best place is probably Mastodon. So you can find me there at jeffbishop@mastodon.online. Probably the best thing to do. And follow me there and I'll follow you back.
Sounds great. And Taylor, where can people find you online?
Oh, man. People can find me all sorts of places. You can find me interacting with the community at iAccessibility. And you can also find me working at Techopolis. But no, on a more serious note, you can find me on Mastodon at Tayarnt at Techopolis, TECHOPOLIS.social. And you could also find me on Facebook, Taylor Arndt. X, I'm still there, Tayarnt. And yeah, I don't think I have any other. Oh, well, YouTube, Taylor Arndt. So I'm still updating that channel, but stay tuned.
Okay. You can find me producing content for iAccessibility. You can email me at mikedoise, it's MikeDoise at iCloud.com. I'm on Facebook as Michael Doise, Mastodon, Mike Doise at techopolis.social. And you can find me pretty much anywhere, really. I'm always around. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thanks for listening. We will be back more regularly with content. I know we keep saying that, but we'll make it happen. And hopefully we'll have some new faces here soon. So thank you everybody for being here. It's been a great episode of the podcast, and we'll see you all very soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in to the iACast. We hope you enjoyed the show and found the conversation to be insightful and informative. If you have any feedback or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Please send us an email at feedback@iacast.net. You can also follow us on Twitter at iACast Network to stay informed about new episodes and other updates. Don't forget to check out more great podcasts on the iACast Network, iacast.net. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.